Machar meets delegation led by Nyanagwek Cole Maring after 5 months of detention. Juba, suspended first vice president and chairman of the Sudan People's Liberation Movement in Opposition, SPLMIO, Dr. Riek Machar Tini Durgan, on Friday afternoon received a delegation at his Juba residence, marking his first known meeting since being placed under detention more than 5 months ago. The delegation was led by Nyanagwek Cole Maring, executive director in the office of the first vice president, who was accompanied by 2 lawyers. In a statement following the visit, Maring described the encounter as deeply emotional and uplifting. On this day, September 12, 2025, we had the opportunity to meet Dr. Riek Machar Tini Durgan at his residence. He welcomed us warmly, with a bright smile, looking healthy, confident, and in high spirits, Maring said. She added that the reunion, which also included Machar's wife, Mama Angelina Tini, was the first in 5 months and 12 days since his detention. It was a joy to see him again, along with Mama Angelina, after such a long and unjust detention. We give thanks and glory to Almighty God for his life and protection, Maring stated. According to her, Dr. Machar extended his warm greetings to the South Sudanese public and assured them of his resilience despite the political crisis. Background: Machar was suspended from his role as first vice president on September 11, 2025 by a presidential decree issued by President Salva Kiir, hours after prosecutors announced that he, Oil Minister Put Kong Cole, and former Lieutenant Gabriel Duplam would face trial for murder, treason, crimes against humanity, and financing terrorism. His suspension has fueled political tensions, with the SPLMIO describing the charges as fabricated and politically motivated, accusing the government of attempting to dismantle the 2018 revitalized peace agreement. The move has also drawn criticism from opposition groups, civil society organizations, and international observers, who have warned that undermining Machar's role risks derailing South Sudan's fragile peace process. The trial proceedings are expected to commence later this month, though SPLMIO officials have called for international mediation, claiming the judiciary has been compromised. Friday's visit by Maring is seen as a rare glimpse into Machar's condition, which has been a matter of speculation since his detention in April. Her remarks that he appeared healthy, confident, and in high spirits may reassure his supporters as political uncertainty deepens in Juba. Breaking news: Dr. Riek Machar secures 107 defense lawyers in landmark case against South Sudan government. Juba, South Sudan. The trial of South Sudan's first vice president and SPLMIO chairman, Dr. Riek Machar Tini Durgan, has taken on global dimensions after his defense team was revealed to include 107 lawyers from across the world, the largest international legal representation in South Sudan's history. The case, announced by the government last week, charges Machar with murder, treason, crimes against humanity, and financing terrorism. His allies, including Oil Minister Put Kong Cole and Lieutenant General Gabriel Duplam, were also indicted. Machar's suspension from his official duties by President Salva Kiir only hours after the indictment has fueled accusations that the trial is politically motivated. Composition of the defense team. According to official defense sources, the unprecedented lineup includes 36 barristers and lawyers from the United Kingdom, all pledging to work pro bono. 24 lawyers from Norway, supported by international human rights organizations. 9 volunteer lawyers from the United States of America, USA. 11 defense lawyers from Germany, directly sponsored by the German government. 10 lawyers from East Africa, Tanzania, Rwanda, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia. Self-funded. 4 South Sudanese lawyers, funded by Machar's family. 2 independent lawyers from Ghana and Nigeria, covering their own costs. 1 defense lawyer from Sudan, joining independently. This vast coalition brings together legal minds from Europe, North America, East Africa, and West Africa, ensuring that the trial will not only be watched closely within South Sudan, but will also be subject to intense international scrutiny. A case under global spotlight. Legal analysts say the internationalization of Machar's defense makes it nearly impossible for the trial to proceed as a domestic matter alone. With international lawyers, governments, and human rights groups now directly involved, the proceedings will be viewed as a test of South Sudan's judicial independence and a referendum on its fragile democratic institutions. This is no longer just a trial of Dr. Riek Machar, one Juba-based analyst said. It has become a trial of South Sudan's justice system before the eyes of the world. Reactions and implications. Human rights groups. Organizations monitoring the case argue the massive defense turnout shows that the charges are widely seen as politically motivated. The fact that over 100 lawyers volunteered or were sponsored to defend Machar speaks volumes, said one international rights advocate. Government position. Officials loyal to President Salva Kiir insist the trial will proceed according to the Constitution and the rule of law, rejecting claims of political persecution. Peace agreement at stake. Observers warn that the prosecution of Machar, a key signatory to the 2018 revitalized peace agreement, could unravel the delicate balance of power and potentially drag South Sudan back into open conflict. International backlash. Germany's sponsorship of 11 lawyers and the involvement of UK barristers pro bono indicates European governments are taking an active interest, signaling potential diplomatic consequences if the trial is mishandled. Why this matters. 1. Unprecedented scale. 107 lawyers for one defendant is virtually unheard of in Africa's legal history. 2. Political dimensions. The move suggests Machar's allies view the case not as a legal battle, but as a political war waged in courtrooms. 3. Pressure on Kiir. With such an international legal presence, the government faces intense pressure to ensure transparency, making it far harder to manipulate proceedings without global backlash. 4. Impact on stability. The trial risks destabilizing South Sudan's fragile unity government, already strained by tribal divisions and competing power blocs. What's next? Court hearings are expected to begin in the coming weeks, though the entry of such a large international legal team may delay the start. Human rights monitors and international diplomats are already mobilizing to attend the trial, which some predict will become the most watched legal case in South Sudan's history. Dr. Riek Machar secures 107 defense lawyers from around the world. Juba, in a dramatic show of international support, South Sudan's first vice president and SPLMIO chairman, Dr. Riek Machar Teni Durgan, has assembled a powerful team of 107 defense lawyers from across the globe to challenge the charges brought against him by the government of President Salva Kiir. The diverse team includes 36 barristers from the United Kingdom working pro bono, 24 lawyers from Norway backed by human rights organizations, 9 volunteers from the United States, 11 German lawyers funded by their government, 10 from East Africa self-funding their participation, 4 South Sudanese lawyers supported by Machar's family, 2 independent lawyers from Ghana and Nigeria, and 1 lawyer from Sudan. Analysts say the unprecedented defense lineup marks the largest international legal support ever seen in South Sudan's judicial history, signaling that Machar's trial will not only test his fate, but also the credibility of South Sudan's justice system under global scrutiny. Human rights groups have welcomed the international involvement, framing the case as one of political persecution rather than criminal justice, while government officials insist that proceedings will be conducted according to the rule of law. With tensions already high and the 2018 revitalized peace agreement at risk, the trial is expected to attract intense international monitoring and could redefine the country's fragile political landscape. Judges of the High Court and Supreme Court of South Sudan resign in protest. Juba, South Sudan's fragile judiciary has been thrown into turmoil following a wave of resignations by judges from both the High Court and the Supreme Court. According to sources within the judiciary, the resignations are a direct protest against what judges have described as a concocted and unrealistic case filed against First Vice President and SPLMIO leader, Dr. Riek Machar Teni, Ph.D. In their private communications, several judges cited political interference, executive pressure, and threats to judicial independence as reasons for stepping down. One senior legal official, speaking on condition of anonymity, said, "We cannot in good conscience preside over a case designed to destroy the peace agreement and silence political opposition. This is not justice. It is politics wearing the mask of law." A judiciary in crisis. The resignations mark an unprecedented rupture within South Sudan's justice system. Legal experts warn the move could trigger a constitutional crisis, leaving major proceedings, including the Machar case itself in uncertain ground. Without judges to preside over hearings, the ability of the courts to function independently is now in question. Opposition figures have seized on the development as proof that the trial against Machar is illegitimate, while government officials have yet to issue a formal response. International implications. The timing of the resignations coincides with the announcement that 107 international defense lawyers have joined Machar's legal team, putting the case under intense international scrutiny. Analysts believe the judiciary's protest will only fuel global skepticism about the credibility of South Sudan's justice system. If unresolved, the crisis could derail the already fragile 2018 revitalized peace agreement and push South Sudan closer to political instability. Breaking news. Justice Minister under fire for quoting wrong article in Machar's case. Juba, South Sudan. South Sudan's Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs has come under intense criticism after allegedly citing the wrong constitutional article in connection with the high-profile case of First Vice President Dr. Riek Machar, Tini, and senior SPLMIO officials. Legal practitioners and advocates in Juba blasted the minister's handling of the matter as rookie, poor, and unprofessional, warning that such a blunder risks further complicating an already sensitive political and legal standoff. The core of the mistake. Lawyers argue that under the revitalized transitional government of national unity, RTGO&U, constitutional post holders such as Dr. Machar cannot be tried under ordinary domestic courts. Instead, they should be referred to the hybrid court for South Sudan, a tribunal envisioned under the 2018 revitalized Agreement on the Resolution of the Conflict in South Sudan, RCSS. However, nearly 7 years after the peace agreement was signed, the hybrid court has not been established. Critics say this failure is rooted in political unwillingness, corruption, and incompetence within the SPLM-led government, leaving a dangerous vacuum for accountability. The minister's wrong citation is not just a legal blunder. It exposes the government's disregard for the very peace agreement it signed, said a senior advocate in Juba. If the hybrid court were functional, jurisdictional questions like this would not even arise. Political fallout. The controversy comes as tensions rise between the SPLMIG and SPLMIO, with Machar's supporters already accusing the justice system of being politicized and compromised. Observers warn that the mishandling of such a politically charged trial could spark further divisions within the fragile coalition government. Diplomatic sources add that international partners, particularly those who back the peace deal, are closely monitoring the situation, with the justice minister's error seen as evidence of the government's inability or unwillingness to implement reforms. Bigger picture. For many South Sudanese, the incident underscores two urgent priorities. 1. Reforms in the justice sector to restore credibility and professionalism. 2. Speedy establishment of the hybrid court to handle cases involving senior political figures and serious crimes committed during the conflict. Until these reforms are enacted, critics warn, South Sudan's justice system will continue to be viewed as politically manipulated, legally weak, and institutionally unprepared to handle cases of national significance. Satellite antenna, stay tuned for further updates as the Machar case continues to unfold. SPLMIO rejects suspension and prosecution of Riek Machar, cites peace agreement violations. Juba, the Sudan People's Liberation Movement in opposition, SPLMIO, on Friday strongly rejected the suspension and planned prosecution of its leader, First Vice President Riek Machar, calling the actions politically motivated and a violation of the 2018 revitalized peace agreement. The announcement follows Justice Minister Joseph Gung Akeka's statement on Thursday that Machar and 7 others had been charged with murder, treason, and crimes against humanity, linked to a March attack on a military base in Nasser, Upper Nile State, which killed over 250 soldiers. That same night, President Salva Kiir suspended Machar, who has been under house arrest since March 26 amid an ongoing power struggle. SPLMIO spokesperson Pal Maidang described the process as a kangaroo court, stating the suspension lacks legal basis and violates Article 5.3 of the 2018 peace agreement, which assigns accountability to the yet-to-be-established hybrid court for South Sudan. He warned that the government's actions risk derailing the peace process, humiliating SPLMIO members, and signaling a collapse of the agreement. Deng said the movement would not recognize the trials or send legal representatives, calling on regional guarantors, including IGAD, the African Union, and the international community, to intervene. He stressed that the peace agreement has been severely undermined and can only remain viable if the government reverses violations and releases detained members. The 2018 agreement mandates the establishment of a hybrid court for South Sudan to prosecute violations of international law, but the court has yet to be operational. UN spokesperson Stephen Dujarric. September 12, 2025, New York. The United Nations on Friday called on South Sudanese authorities to ensure that any legal proceedings against suspended First Vice President Riek Machar and 7 others meet international standards of fairness and transparency. The UN mission in South Sudan, UNMISS, said it was closely following the situation after the country's Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs announced legal charges against Machar and several others earlier this week. Any judicial proceeding should adhere to international standards of fairness and transparency, with full respect for the rule of law and human rights, UN spokesperson Stephen Dujarric told reporters at the daily press briefing. The development comes as South Sudan marks the 7th anniversary of the revitalized peace agreement, signed in 2018 to end years of civil war. Implementation of the deal has been slow, and tensions have risen amid political deadlock and escalating violence. The United Nations urged all parties to de-escalate tensions and prioritize the needs of the South Sudanese people. As the political and security situation continues to deteriorate, it is more important than ever that the country's leaders put the interests of their people first, Dujarric said. The UN also renewed warnings over the worsening humanitarian crisis in South Sudan, where half the population faces severe food insecurity alongside mass displacement and economic collapse. On Thursday, Justice Minister Joseph Gung Akek said Machar and 7 others had been formally charged with murder, treason, and crimes against humanity. The charges relate to a March attack on a military base in Nasir, Upper Nile State, which authorities say left more than 250 soldiers dead. They allege the assault was carried out by the White Army militia under Machar's command. Later that evening, President Salva Kiir suspended Machar from his post, along with Petroleum Minister Pute Kong Chol, pending the outcome of the trial. On Friday, Machar met with a team of defense lawyers in the capital, Juba, his first meeting with legal counsel since security forces placed him under house arrest. Machar has been under house arrest since March, with the UN, African Union, and neighboring countries all calling for calm. The 2018 peace deal, signed by Kiir and Machar, ended a conflict that killed nearly 400,000 people. However, relations between the two leaders have since deteriorated amid ongoing ethnic tensions and sporadic violence. Justice Ruben Madel Errol blocked from defense team. Ruben Madel Errol, the former Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, reportedly requested to join the legal defense of Dr. Riek Machar and other SPLM/SPLAIO detainees. Despite being a private practitioner and a personal friend of Machar, his request was denied by the SPLM-IG-led government. This move has sparked criticism, with legal experts and opposition voices calling it a violation of the Advocacy Act, which guarantees lawyers the right to represent clients freely. The Advocacy Act of South Sudan is designed to protect the independence of legal professionals. Blocking a qualified lawyer from representing a client, especially in a high-profile case, raises serious concerns about judicial impartiality and due process. Critics argue that this decision could undermine the credibility of Machar's trial and intensify political divisions, especially given the symbolic weight of Ruben Madel's involvement. Ruben Madel was dismissed from his ministerial post earlier this year amid a broader cabinet reshuffle by President Salva Kiir. His exclusion from Machar's defense team may reflect deeper political maneuvering, especially as Machar faces charges of murder, treason, and crimes against humanity related to the Nasir military base attack. This situation is rapidly evolving, and it's clear that the trial of Dr. Machar is not just a legal matter. It's a litmus test for South Sudan's commitment to justice, transparency, and peace. Dear audience and viewers, if you are not yet subscribed to Go Explore 251, make sure you subscribe now, because we are here to give you accurate news. Thanks for watching.